So how do you write an artist statement? Yes, I know it is one of the most dreadful things to hear. Other than, I love your art, can you paint my grandma?
No, God, please, no.
So, I've done videos on this before in the past where I talked about how to write an artist statement, but after almost a decade, I want to make sure I update this video because I have all new equipment and all new perspectives. So I'm going to go over a couple different areas. One is audience, the other is questions to ask yourself, and then going to talk about voice, and then tips to help you write your artist statement. So let's get to it. So one of the first things that I found to be really helpful when really just beginning your artist statement, because sometimes you just don't know where to go, and that is really figure out what is the purpose of that artist statement. All artist statements are not the same. So when you're writing an artist statement, you really want to know what is the purpose of it, because an artist statement that, for instance, is made for, let's say you're applying for a college, an art college, or you're applying for a grant, or you're applying to be in an art residency. So those artist statements will be read by probably 5, 10, 20 people at the most, because they're going before a committee, and that committee is looking at your artist statement, trying to figure out whether you are good for this opportunity. So, probably 20 people, maybe Bill from accounting is gonna read your artist statement. That artist statement is going to be different than an artist statement for, let's say, a group show or a solo exhibition or something to dealing with marketing. Maybe your work is being used in a big campaign and this is something that they want to put on the website. That's gonna be read by a ton of people from all different backgrounds that don't know you, that are just discovering your artwork or just seeing it on the wall, want to learn a little bit more about you, but it's being read by hundreds, maybe thousands of people. That is something that you really have to figure out, is what is the purpose of your artist statement, because then that is really where you find out who your audience is. Is it a committee of people reading your artist statement, trying to figure out whether you are right for this opportunity, or is it going to be people that are just discovering you and trying to figure out what you're all about? Because no one wants to read an artist statement that is not written for them.
Absolutely nobody.
So you got to make it as easy as possible for people to actually read what you write. And now once you have that figured out, then you want to really get to the meat of the actual artist statement. This is basically everything about you, everything that makes you you. So I have a couple of questions that I always tell artists to ask themselves, and the answers that you're using for these questions, you can use that for the meat of the actual artist statement. And I'll have these in the description as well, but definitely write these down and answer them so that you can start to begin the actual sort of building blocks of your artist statement. What is the philosophical or social issue that your art is trying to tackle, and why? What is your background, and how does that influence the work that you do or the process that you use to create your artwork? What type of research did you do in your practice just to create the concept, the idea behind your artwork? So what is the process of creating your work, and why is it unique to what you're trying to talk about? What is the significance of the materials and mediums and techniques that you're using in your practice while creating the work that you do? Are there any references to time periods or events in history that can sort of talk a little bit about your work? What does your audience get from, viewing and sort of interacting with your work? What do you want them to leave with, and why? So really, when you're asking yourself these questions to create that artist statement, you just want to make sure that you sort of really try to cover the who, what, when, where, and why, and then even more on the why, so that people really understand all about you. So based on your answers and the purpose of your artist statement, you are now ready to sort of put all those answers together and just build the structure of that artist statement. So just start to construct that into, 2, 3, maybe 4 paragraphs. Some may be shorter, some may be longer, but here's the thing. Now that we're truly in a digital age, you can get as much help as you can. Before, like me, when I was basically starting out, I had to ask friends and family to spell check and sort of, is this grammar right? Does this sound right? But now you can actually use something like ChatGPT AI to help you refine your statements. Don't use it to actually pull from you, because that's only something that you can do, but you can use it to help you refine statements, spell check, grammar, making sure you can sort of phrase things differently, because sometimes I'm repetitive when I write, because it's just it's a habit. So sometimes I can use ChatGPT to help me sort of figure out different ways of saying the exact same thing, a way of saying it more interesting, right? So that is something that you can definitely do. No one expecting an artist to be Shakespeare.
Be told, my lords,
'Tis not I who penned this dreadful play. 'Twas Christopher Marlowe.
Yes, it was.
So get as much help as you can. And one of the questions that I always get from artists asking about how to write an artist statement is, what voice do I use for that artist statement? Should it be first person perspective or third person perspective? So first person using I and me versus third person using your name. So like Detour does this, this, and this. Detour's work is about whatever. When I want to get really personable and try to connect with whoever's reading it, let's say trying to get into an art residency or talk about my artwork so that I can gain an opportunity, I like to use first person. But when I'm writing an artist statement for like a group show or a solo show, I usually will use a third person to sort of really just talk about some of the work. So there really is no right or wrong. It's really up to you and what you think is best for your artist statement and your voice. And one thing that really helps out a lot when writing your artist statement consistently, and that is just talking about it. So whenever anyone asks me about my work, I always use that as an opportunity to talk about my work. And when I'm talking about my work, sometimes phrases come up where I'm like, oh, I like how that sounded when I was communicating my work to this individual, and I'll make sure I write that down and use that in an artist statement. So for a long time I was using, I'm at the intersection of art and technology. So that word intersection, I really like that. But I overuse that a lot, so I had to get rid of it and try something new. But really just talk about your work to anyone and everyone. When you're talking to people about your work, you can also get that feedback from those individuals you're talking to and add that to your artist statement in terms of different phrases that they will communicate to you. You can say, I like that phrase that they responded to me with. I'm going to use that in my artist statement. I'm going to use that vocabulary, that language, the way they're sort of talking about my work. So definitely use them as much as possible. So the last piece of advice is making sure that you document, you save, you store all of your artist statements that you are writing into a cloud drive or folder, whatever, Google Drive, Dropbox, because you can use all those different artist statements you use again in the future. Don't reinvent the wheel. I'm always storing those submissions in a Google Drive folder so that later next year when I apply to another opportunity, I can pull that from the folder and then say, hey, you know what, let me just copy paste and then reword this, reword that, and then basically submit. So it allows you to easily submit more applications because you're not trying to start from scratch. So that is something that I always tell artists, make sure you save every one of your artist statements because you never know when you can use it again. And one final tip, this also goes back to not reinventing the wheel. Definitely learn from other artists because other successful artists that are in spaces that you want to be in places you want to be in, getting opportunities that you want, definitely research them and the artist statement that they're using. Figure out, oh, are they using first person or third person? How long is their artist statement? What does it sound like? So hopefully this helped out. Artist statements are not that crazy or dreaded.
Lies. Oh, lies!
It's something, you know, you just practice it and you just get better at it and you just get used to it. So I write artist statements all the time. Like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I will see you next time. Peace.